What's going on, guys? My name is Tyler and welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we are talking about the hedge funds and institutions margin calls that they are going to be starting to receive coming September 1st of obviously this year. So this is very important, guys. We're going to go over this article that Short the VIX did put out in his video. So great find, man. I do greatly appreciate it. So does the whole community. So I want to give credit where it is due. But I think there is more to add when it does come down to the reverse repo market. Guys, these two have a direct correlation. Once we get deeper into this article, you will understand exactly why this is correlating to the reverse repurchase agreement market. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Drop that like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that notification bell. So first and foremost, guys, just to acknowledge a move that we did see today, up 1.21%, down 0.36% in after hours. We did close over $33. So right now I am leaning towards a bullish breakout. Anything can happen. Keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor, not a financial planner, or your dad, so ultimately come to your own conclusions. But we are going to be doing a deep dive on the technicals, on the Ortex status, Stocko tracker, everything you guys need to know in a follow-up video after this one. But let's get into this article. This is by Bob Stewart, DTCC, Executive Director, Institutional Trade Processing. And yes, like I said, Short the VIX did go over this, but I think there is a lot more to talk about when we are looking at the overnight reverse repurchase agreement market or reverse repo market, because we are at well over $1 trillion for the last couple of days. But we'll talk about that more and why this has a direct implication to the reverse repo market. So they did have a meeting with 133 attendees from the buy side, from the sell side, custody and outsourcing firms across Asia Pacific. That was earlier in the year. And during his opening remarks, Bob Stewart, he says, DTCC's Bob Stewart, Executive Director, Product Management for Institutional Trade Processing, discussed the impact of Phase 5 of Uncleared Margin Rules, UMR, for over-the-counter OTC derivatives, which kicks in on September 1st, 2021. There will be an upsurge in the volume of margin calls and an increase in the need for third-party custodians to keep safe collateral. That is the most important thing here, guys, to keep safe collateral and third-party custodians. But we'll talk about that in a second after we do go through this. As a result, UMR will likely require many buy-side firms to make significant changes to their existing collateral management processes. He continued, many of these processes are very manual today, often leading to transactional processing errors and settlement failures. It is critical that in-scope buy-side firms are well on their way to preparing for compliance. Stewart commented that most firms have good use of 1 year delay in implementing Phase 5 and Phase 6 of UMR, making the necessary changes and upgrades to their collateral systems, platforms, and processes. However, recent industry reports have indicated that there still is a huge number of in-scope market participant firms that are not ready to comply with the upcoming mandate. And this is what this mandate is. The Phase 5 and Phase 6, keep in mind they have 1 year to actually start implementing this. So it is calling out the risk of non-compliance. Stewart highlighted the establishing segregated accounts with an unaffiliated third-party custodian is a new mandate, regardless of the model adopted, third-party or tri-party segregation. He added, it is a mechanism that many buy-side entities may not have implemented in the past, and it is important that all involved are comfortable with this process. Now, there will be a challenging undertaking as thousands of accounts within the industry, are expected to be established. Opening a global custodian account is an extremely long and laborious process due to the multiple manual tasks required, including involvement with legal teams. Does go on to say right here, this is what I want to point out for you guys. While the global pandemic was the driver to increase our momentum to improve margin and collateral processing, Stewart stressed that the lack of automation in moving collateral within the industry has created bottlenecks in collateral fails. This was especially evident during periods of market volatility where collateral movement suddenly increased between 200 to 300%. Stewart urged the industry to address this issue now to prepare for the next market turmoil. Stewart shared, for many, if not all firms, collateral settlements are currently not acknowledged in real time. Confirmation of collateral settlement may take 1 to 2 days, by which time a failed trade may have already happened. firms need to automate instructions on settlement clearance for every collateral to improve efficiency in the managing of capital and liquidity. So what this 1 year section of 5 and 6 is, what he is essentially saying right here is, instead of going in and basically saying, hey, you guys need to put up this amount of collateral, they want to automate this. So if you start going underwater in your positions, you don't have a day or two to figure this out. They want to get this liquidity into the markets right away, so trades don't fail nearly as much. So that's not as important here. But let's go back up, which it is, but it's not, because they do have 1 year to start complying with this. But some of these firms are going to start doing this sooner rather than later. Now, it says, I'll read this again, there will be an upsurge in the volume of margin calls and an increase in the need for third-party custodians to keep safe collateral. And a third party would be some kind of bank, somebody that is not involved in the actual trade or transaction. And we see this happening right now in the overnight reverse repurchase agreement market, guys. Pretty much when this article, let's see, when this article was made, June 4th. Let's go to the reverse repurchase agreement market. Let's go to June 4th. That is really where things started to get crazy in the reverse repo market. We were only at $483.34 billion, guys. This is short-term collateral. So the banks, in this case, will go to the Fed. They will give them this money. If the Fed does accept it, they will give them these treasury bonds as high valuable collateral, right? The Fed, they're not going to default on their loans. They have the money printer. They can just keep printing if they had to. So they take this money, they get the collateral bonds, and that is high quality collateral they can use to stay in some of these positions, as far as the DTCC is making them do this. So that article was actually written on June 4th. This did happen earlier in the year. So obviously this did happen in about February or March. I'm not exactly sure the exact day of this. It doesn't exactly say in this article, but you can imagine this is why this whole reverse repurchase agreement situation is going insane. Now let's go back and let's zoom out again. You guys can see the full scope of what has happened. We are well above double our all-time highs that we have ever seen in this market. But if we really zoom in down to the last couple months, honestly, we've been well over $700 billion as of June 17th. We've been at $755 billion. Really haven't went under $700 billion since then. But over the past, since August 9th, guys, or really August 10th, we were at $1 billion. We have been, or $1 trillion. We have been over $1 trillion every single day. Now for today, at $1,050 billion. This is a very large amount, and you're seeing a lot of these hedge funds and institutions giving all of this money to the banks, and you are seeing the banks take this to the Federal Reserve, and that is partly why I think a lot of short sellers, I should say, have not been forced already to cover their short positions in AMC. But what to keep in mind with this, eventually the Fed will stop doing this. They have to accept these reverse repos every single day. Once it gets way out of hand and we start getting maybe to $1.5 trillion per night or per day, they are going to stop doing this at one point. And then that is ultimately when the shorts of AMC and all other stocks in the markets will have to cover on their positions. So all in all, what this is telling us is eventually this collateral will not be available, at least on this large amount. So eventually the short sellers in AMC and any other stock really will have to cover on their short positions. But as we know, short sellers in AMC are very over leveraged. So this is going to be catastrophic for those short sellers. So that is the main concept here, guys. As we put everything together, as the timeline does continue to go on, September 1st, this is where the margin calls will start to be implemented. And if you guys don't know, the OTC stands for over the counter. Typically, when you're talking about stocks, that does mean the OTC markets, right? Not really something you could buy on Robinhood or Webull. But when you're talking about this and options and collateral, you're really talking about the banks and the hedge funds and institutions that do private deals, private contracts. Not everything, as we do know, goes over the OTC markets or on the lit exchanges. This is really an off the books type of thing, but most of the trades do happen off of the books. So this is very significant, guys. Just want to put this in here if you guys are unaware of what OTC does stand for in the context of what is going on. But like I was saying about the timeline, now we have these margin calls on September 1st that are going to be starting. We do have the banks that are going to be getting a huge increase to their capital requirement ratios. Some of these banks' capital requirement ratios are going up over 5% starting on October 1st. So some of this money from the hedge funds and institutions, those are the bank's biggest clients. Obviously, they're going to have to give more money to the banks so they can keep their ratios up to par. The banks aren't coming out of this money pulling it out of their ass. It's coming from the hedge funds and institutions. So I think it's clear to say by the end of this year, really the last 3 months are going to be very eventful. And that is where we do have the highest likelihood, in my opinion, to see this mother of all short squeezes. But anything can happen in the stock market. Be prepared for this to happen tomorrow or for it to happen in a year from now. Nobody really does know. And if they tell you they do know, then they are lying to you. So that is going to conclude this video. Drop the like on the video, comment down below, as well as consider subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell. Also, check out the links down below in the description. There is a link for public. No need to link bank account or deposit a single dollar. Get up to $70 in your choice free stock, and it only takes about 3 minutes time. They also do not use payment for order flow whatsoever. I also do have a link down there in the description for the buy and sell alerts. That pays for itself, so definitely check those links out, guys. But that's going to do it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one.